I've always said this. We are all Igbos. And today, as we speak, we get federal allocation from Nigeria. Our passport is Nigerian passport. We'll be deceiving ourselves to think there is another country for us. So this has to be understood. Okay, my name is Honorable Trumps Eke. I am the Honorable Federal Commissioner representing Abia State in the National Population Commission. National Population Commission has everything it takes to conduct credible, fair, and undisputed census in Nigeria. Like you said, the last census was in 2006, and there would have been census in 2023. But because of transition from the former administration, Buhari administration, it was postponed. And when the conducting census is capital intensive, when this administration came on board, there were a lot of burning issues that the administration considered primary before they can go into census. And given the capital intensive nature of conducting census, one can understand why there is the delay in conducting census. We are hopeful that census might be conducted in the first quarter of next year. But I'm sure this administration, if it doesn't happen first quarter of next year, it means the electionary campaign and activities would have caught up with it. And so we'll be looking at a date after election. But I'm sure the president, from his body language, will be willing to conduct a census. Registration of birth and death is one of the core mandates of National Population Commission. And you will agree with me that there is this low-level literacy, especially in the rural area. Some people don't want their children counted, and some people don't want registration to take place. Most of the rural areas, there are no health centers or maternity where this thing can be done immediately. But our field workers, our registrars are deployed all over the local government areas and the rural areas to go and do this thing. We're always pleading with the traditional rulers, president generals of development unions in the various communities to assist in providing information. When these ad hoc staff come around, they should volunteer information where birth has occurred, not in the maternities or health centers, to volunteer information so these children can be captured and certificate issued. People from 01, from day 1, day old to 17, are registered free of charge and certificate issued. This is part of what we need to make our people understand, that you don't incur additional expenses for registering children, or children that are under 17. From day old to 17 years, they are registered free by National Population Commission. So if you look at from 18 and above, there is a stipend you pay for the certificate. But the important thing is that this information has to trickle down. There has to be, cooperation from the state government to the local government chief executives to see this as necessary by, you know, synergy, where we have to build synergy. So that, if, for instance, the government at the center is All Progressives Party. The government at the state level is Labour Party. So Labour Party doesn't see this project as a contestation between APC and Labour Party. No. There has to be that understanding. There has to be that synergy. You know, there has to be that symbiotic relationship between the state and the federal agencies that are charged with this responsibility, so that that cooperation will necessarily come from the state government and instruction given to the mayors at the various local government level, so that they will see it. Because if they don't see it as a responsibility, the state will be shortchanged, not the federal agency. Okay. For instance, if the federal government is going to deploy health centers based on the number of people or number of children that are registered, or if there is assistance coming from our international partners like World Health Organization or World Bank to the state based on the number, we'll be shortchanging ourselves if that bipartisan relationship is not there. So that is why we always call and plead with them to give us all the vehicle necessary, all the platforms necessary to have this done and done well. So that is where we come in. But then National Population Commission has everything it takes, whether in terms of technology, modern technology, or numbers, personnel. We have all it takes to do a yeoman's work when it comes to either birth or death registration. And incidentally, most people don't report death in the various communities. If there are deaths in the various communities, we expect people to come and report so that death certificate can be issued. These are for planning purposes. If we don't have the various strata of age grade, how many people we are within the bracket of 01 to 18, how many people are between the age of 18 to 40 or thereabout, and all that, it doesn't help planning. These statistics are needed for effective planning, whether it is by way of citing industries, whether it is by way of building schools or other interventions by government. Fig number is very key. Nobody can put a figure on the population of Nigeria for obvious reasons. Whatever anybody is going to give you will be projection. For instance, if you go by the 2006 census, 2006 census, they put Abia State at 3.something million. But between you and I, you know that if you stay at Ngwa Road, by your hand, and you say, let me stay there and begin to count the number of people coming from that houses into the town, there are more than 3 million. So even if you do by national, because what we do is national population and housing census. So even if you use houses as the basis to generate figures, you will know that from Ngwaru towards Ohanku and down there, you have more than 3 million people. Now, how did they come by that figure? We should change ourselves by a number of reasons. I've always said this. We are all Igbos. And today, as we speak, we get federal allocation from Nigeria. Our passport is Nigerian passport. We'll be deceiving ourselves to think there is another country for us other than this. So this has to be understood, that whatever anybody is doing or expecting, as we speak, we are Nigerians. And resources are dispensed based on the population figure. So if our people, like what happened in 2006, when Maso said we are not part of this country, nobody should come and count people here and all that. 2006 and 2025, we are still where we are. So we should stop shooting ourselves on the leg. They have to understand, whatever thing you are planning, we don't have anything against that, But as we speak, we have to make use of what we have. And which is to say that this country is our country. We have no other country to call our own. On that basis, people need to understand that census is primary. Anytime there is census, we should participate actively so that our figures can, if you want to create another state out of Abia State now, it will be based on our population. If you want to create local government, it will be based on our population. You want to create wards out of the present number of wards we have, it will be based on our population. So that alone is a cause for concern that traditional rulers, state actors and non-state actors will come together to make sure that we use what we have to get what we want. The point is very clear. The traditional institution has a role to play. The churches have a role to play. The faith-based organization has a role to play. The state actors, the state government has a major role to play. More than what they think the national population can do, because they are the actors at the various states. And the state government, for instance, knows that for them to have more revenue coming to them, they need to have accurate figures to buttress it. Whether it's in terms of allocation of resources, whether it's in terms of deployment of government facilities and infrastructure. For instance, if you are building an estate or you are building a market, you are building it for human beings.
Yes.
Look at Obani market. Poor infrastructures. That's why Obani cannot thrive. If the visionaries of Obani market had done beautiful road network around that market, built toilet facilities around that market, made provision for lorry parks and smaller cars, demarcate the parks, maybe more than market, people won't find it difficult to go and do business there. How can you see you trying in 2025? You have a market without public toilet. You have a market without functional borehole. How can it work? These are part of planning. You need to have your figures. You just don't wake up overnight and say, I am doing this here, I am doing this here, without having the figure. You could have a market. You can also have another market that will say, okay, this is vegetable market. So that when you move into that place, you know you are just going to buy vegetable. You can have, and that way you would have decongested the market, segmented the market. People can go into abroad, you have vegetable market. Like in Lagos, there's vegetable market. You go there, you pick fruits, you pick other forms of vegetable. And so you go this other way, you know you want to buy textile. That is textile market and all that. And that makes life easier. But all that you can not do if you don't have the figures. So the faith-based organization has a role to play. The traditional institution has a role to play. The state government has a role to play. We have a role to play. Propaganda, publicity will be key. Even before the census is announced,
yes,
these things has to go in trickle and say, we have no other country to call our own except this. All hands must be on deck. Go and register your children. We have a situation where you go to schools, you want to pick information. Parents will refuse to volunteer information. What do you want to do with it? Well, you want to defraud us. How can somebody defraud you with your BVN? Nobody can effectively defraud you just with your BVN. Banks will tell you that. Nobody can defraud you by asking you to bring your national ID card so that your kid can be registered. It is still that level of ignorance that we suffer, because given the feedback we had from our staff that went into the field during the eBay registration last year, some parents refuse to bring their NIN so that their children can be registered in schools. So we need a lot of publicity. We need a lot of media activity to make parents understand that it is our responsibility to have the future of these children secured. For instance, today you may not be thinking that your child will travel abroad. What if tomorrow things pick up and you want the child to go on holiday and the child is above 5, or they say, where's his passport? And you don't have a passport because you don't have a eBay registration, because all these are going to be tied together. The technology we have now is one-stop technology, where you punch a button and the name of the kid pops up, and everything about that kid is there. The Nigerian Immigration Service will have to rely on the National Population Commission to furnish them with information like that. And so when they have it, that is where the issue is. If you don't register a kid and it's not in the data bank, it could be difficult for that kid to have a international passport. It could be difficult for that kid to have national identity number. So these are propaganda we need to push out there, and the government needs to see the need for them to be active partners with the National Population Commission.